In this slide, we will introduce an often quoted technique of controlling costs called Earned Value Management or EVM. As shown in the slide, EVM is a project performance measurement technique. EVM is useful as it presents an integrated picture of the project, taking into account scope aspects, schedule aspects, and cost aspects. One can apply EVM for a period of time to assess how well the project has done in terms of progress towards achieving defined goals. EVM is also useful to forecast performance of the remainder of the project based on performance till date. To illustrate the concept of EVM, let us start with an example of the work of an individual project team member. The project team member is assigned work estimated at 160 hours for the first month of design and development. Suppose at the end of the first month, the team member has actually logged only 140 hours of work. Does it mean that his work is in trouble? Or if he puts in, say, 200 hours, does it mean that he is doing far better than expected? It depends on what he has achieved, is it not? So you need a measure for the actual value of the work that the team member has produced. How much value has been earned by putting in, say, 140 hours or 200 hours. This is what is called earned value or EV. There are two other measures related to earned value. They are planned value and actual cost. They are the work planned for the period and the actual effort put in during the same period. Having introduced the terms associated with EVM, we will continue our example and see how EVM is applied. Continuing with our example in the previous slide, let's say that the developer has been given 3 tasks to complete in his very first month. The 3 tasks are estimated at 50 hours, 30 hours, and 80 hours. The completion criteria for these tasks are that they should pass 100% of all the test cases defined for each one of them. At the end of the month, a review reveals that task 1 and task 2 are complete and have passed all the unit test cases. However, some of the test cases for task 3 have failed. Hence, we consider the full value of task 1 and task 2 as earned and do not at all consider any earned value for task 3, although effort has gone into it. So the earned values for the 3 tasks are 50 plus 30 plus 0, which equals 80 hours. However, the developer has actually put in 160 hours of effort for achieving 80 hours worth of earned value. So now the performance for the first month can be looked at in 2 ways. Schedule variance, which is defined as earned value plus planned value, and cost variance, which is earned value plus actual cost or effort. You can see that both these are negative. That's not good news. Negative schedule variance means that there was a certain amount of work planned for the month, which is the PV, but the developer could only achieve much less, which is the EV. So the developer's tasks are behind schedule. Negative cost variance means that although the developer spent the 160 hours in the month doing work, which is the AC, his output is not commensurate with the cost incurred. So the tasks are behind in terms of cost as well. How could this have been foreseen and avoided, perhaps? Checks earlier in the month may have revealed some of the reasons. Perhaps task 3 turned out to be a lot more complex than originally thought and was perhaps done in a hurry. Or the code review may not have been effective, and so on. EVM highlights the areas of underperformance. Further analysis is needed to identify and fix the underlying causes. We will see another example of applying EVM at a project level in a later slide. These are the basics of applying earned value management. Hope it is clear. In the example in the previous slide, we covered the definitions of schedule variance and cost variance. Here are a few more terms and definitions used in EVM. It would be good to remember these as they are used time and again. Also note the callouts regarding SV, CV, SPI and CPI and their interpretation. A couple of slides back, we talked about applying EVM in the context of activities assigned to a single developer. You can extend that and apply EVM to all activities in the project for a period of time. Refer to the diagram shown in the slide. The first step in doing that is to establish the planned progression of the work in the project from start to finish. This is the cumulative PV for the project over a time scale, shown as a purple line in the diagram. Next, as the project progresses, EV and AC information can be gathered on a regular basis and represented as a cumulative value in the same diagram. EVs and ACs for the project are arrived at by summing all the individual EVs and ACs of various tasks being worked upon by the project team. EVs need to be assessed based on objective completion criteria, as we did in the earlier example. Remember, we did not assign any EV for one of the tasks of the developer since some test cases had failed. This is called the 0 or 100% rule. That is, any task can have an EV which is either 0% complete or 100% complete and nothing in between. The 0 or 100% rule does not reckon any value for work in progress. This results in a rather conservative assessment of EV, which I would recommend any day. We will continue with some more analysis of this project in the next slide. Here is a sample analysis of the project situation in the diagram that we saw in the earlier slide. You can see that till about week 5, things were progressing reasonably well. During week 6, earned value begins to flatten and stays flat for about a week, while the actual cost continues to grow as before. In week 7, earned value picks up and starts growing again, but continues to lag behind planned value and actual cost. What do you think has happened to cause this in this project? A number of project scenarios could have resulted in this profile of EV, PV and AC. One possible scenario is that in week 5, the project hit a technical challenge. The team may have worked on solving that for close to a week and perhaps solved it by week 7. After that, the team has made progress but unable to catch up with the planned value. In fact, the rate of earned value growth has reduced further. By week 14, the earned value has fallen significantly below the planned value. Also, from about week 5, the actual cost line has risen above the earned value line and stays there. This means extra cost is being incurred, perhaps because additional expert assistance may have been brought in to address the technical challenge encountered in week 5. This expert assistance may have contributed to getting the earned value back to a growth mode by week 7. But it has apparently not helped the earned value to catch up with the planned value. Are you able to see how one can analyze and come up with an interpretation of the EVM diagram? Of course, you may ask, what is the point in doing the EVM analysis at week 14 when it is probably a bit too late for any corrective action? You are right in asking that. The EVM analysis should have been done in week 6 or week 7 of the project. That would have brought out the reasons for underperformance much earlier, providing a broader choice of corrective actions and time to recover. Hope the example is clear. In the last slide, we covered the possible interpretation of a project level diagram showing cumulative EV, PV and AC. We will now cover the important aspect of how to forecast project performance using the EVM technique. You can see the various options to forecast performance in the slide. Each forecasting option is associated with assumptions about the bearing of past performance on the forecast of future performance. Take the first forecasting option. This option implies that whatever has happened, that is actual cost till date, and whatever is the cumulative value of EV. But the remainder of the work will progress at the rate originally envisaged. To reiterate, option 1 implies that the remainder of the project will go on as per original plan, regardless of the results achieved till date in terms of earned value and actual cost. If the actual project performance till date is not satisfactory, this option sets the expectation that somehow the project performance will improve. In such cases, this option results in an optimistic forecast. In contrast, the second option implies that the forecast of project cost will be determined by the current cost performance index achieved. If the CPI is adverse and less than 100% at the moment, the forecast implies that the rest of the project will continue to underperform at the same rate. Hence, in such cases, this will be a pessimistic forecast compared to option 1. The third option is more sophisticated than options 1 and 2 as it combines the use of SPI and CPI for forecasting. Equations 4 and 5 are essentially ratios of remaining work and remaining funds. This is called the to complete performance index. That is, the rate at which the rest of the project needs to perform to achieve the budget goal. A value greater than 1 indicates that the project needs to step up the performance by that much. And of course, a value less than 1 means that the project has already overachieved and there is some slack available for the rest of the project. The difference between TCPI in equations 4 and 5 is that in equation 5, EAC is used in place of BAC. This is in situations where the original budget at completion is no longer considered realistic by the project team and a revised estimate at completion is used in its place in the denominator. A final word of caution here. In a given project situation, one can apply all the forecasting options which produce different numbers, causing confusion as to what is the right forecast. And that confusion can be sorted out only with sound professional judgment of ground realities and group assessment involving appropriate project stakeholders. Hope the application of EVM for forecasting project performance is clear. In our experience, we've heard a lot of organizations talk about using earned value management, but the level of implementation and effective usage varies quite a bit. There may be many reasons contributing to this, including the nature and size of projects for which EVM may have been attempted. In general, EVM delivers value in projects such as large application development and enhancement, application re-engineering, application migration, and package implementations. Organizations that are seriously considering EVM for better cost control need to understand the limitations of the technique, implementation aspects, and associated challenges. As indicated in the slide, EVM gives equal weightage to all project activities. However, we know that activities are all not created equal. Some are more equal than others. Take for example activities on the critical path. If a number of non-critical activities are contributing a major portion of the project's earned value, then slippages in a small number of critical activities in progress may get overlooked. So while the overall cumulative EV may be looking good, it should not lull the project manager into thinking that all is well, including critical activities. EVM requires objective and precise completion criteria to assess activity level progress as represented by the earned value. Without that, the overall project EV will not be accurate, rendering the technique useless. Earlier in the module, we had talked about using rules like 0 or 100%, which make progress assessment more objective, even if somewhat conservative. Lastly, EVM rests on the ongoing availability of accurate actual effort expended in the project. This is the actual cost or AC. This means that the organization environment, processes, and tools should enable the project team to log actual hours with due approval from the project manager.